I love me some rhino talk. I love it when the Republicans go after each other. And it's like I've talked so much, my throat's dry, so I feel like I need to take a break. And this would be one of those moments where I could, because the name of this video, this is Glenn Beck, why are Republicans opposed to anti-ESG laws the most? Uh-oh, they're clearly swamp creatures. And by the way, this is Lumberjack Glenn. This is from the same show, I guess we watched the day before yesterday. The Heartland Institute's Justin Haskins tells Glenn that in the 20 states currently drafting legislation to stop the Great Reset, it is Republican lawmakers standing against such bills the most. Why? Because they argue certain Great Reset practices, especially specifically ESG laws, should be permissible under the free market. Yeah, because it's just a label. But Glenn and Justin, co-authors of The Great Reset, oh, I see. They're trying to sell this book. And if Republicans are like, this is bullshit, who gives a fuck? It's not going to hurt anything. Joe Biden and the rise of the 21st century fascism. This is the Great Reset. Joe Biden and the rise of 21st century fascism. So on the one hand, you have Joe Biden. And then on the other side of the aisle, you have the 21st century fascism, I suppose. Explain why those Republicans are wrong in all caps. They're wrong. They wrong, man. They wrong. Come on, man. They wrong. Hold on. I feel like we need like a special guest on this one as well. Let's see who we. Well, let me see. Let's see if let's see. Hold on. Let me see if where he goes with this.
The co-author of The Great Reset. He is also the.
By the way, we have Stu, who's Glenn's co-host on this show, or second in command. He's his his grunt on his show. We'll have Glenn on to interview him, and now Glenn Beck is interviewing his own co-author.
Editorial director of the Heartland Institute and editor-in-chief of StoppingSocialism.com. Hello, Justin. How are you?
How's that worked out?
Oh, I'm doing so well, Glenn. How are you?
You're doing so well. Good. You got a little touch of COVID, I hear. Yeah,
just a touch.
Justin, you have been one of the guys who have been...
Oh, an edit. Did he have a coughing fit? Shit.
Working with these legislatures. You have another one in New Hampshire. They're going to vote on it either today or tomorrow. How's that going?
Uh-huh.
Right. Well, as we're seeing in many places across the country that are working on this issue, and there are about 20 states.
I swear to God, I feel like somebody's going to sneak up on Glenn. What is this angle?
Something on an anti-ESG bill. The biggest opposition that we're seeing is coming because all of these bills are being proposed in states where Republicans have most of the political power, if not all of it.
Sure. Why would you go and take an idea that you feel strongly about and feel like would be fair and safe and good and take it to, a balanced state and make your case when you can just take it where you think everybody's already in the tank for you?
What we're seeing is that it's the biggest opposition is coming from Republicans. And the Republicans who are arguing against it, it's not a majority of them. It's usually just a small group of them. But they're saying this is a free market issue. And you just need to let banks and financial institutions and all these people discriminate against individuals and other businesses as they see fit, because that's their argument.
I can't. Oh, it's terrible. Wait, Republicans are for free market decisions and they want you to be able to put whatever label on funds that you're selling that you want to, hopefully so that you can raise money from certain investors that won't invest in stuff unless they're guaranteed that it's in line with their values, like Christians or something like that. They want this to actually, oh God, I do need some pearls. I definitely need a pearl necklace.
If it was a bank, great. But it's all of the banks coordinating with the government and big business. Yes,
those famously communist groups, the government and the banks. All of them.
An agenda that doesn't, by their own words, they say it's not based on profit. It is based on on environmental standards, social standards, on making the world a better place. Well, that's not the...
Oh, dear God. What? You mean Christians who run pension funds don't want to invest their money in pharmaceutical companies that make the abortion pill, for example, and that they should be aware of that somehow, so somebody somewhere can make a list of companies that do that, or pension funds that they could put them into, so those people could push back against them. But if somebody wants to do that about environmental causes, that's I don't know what it is.
Market, man. That's not the job of the bank. That's not the job of Nabisco.
Yeah, fucking those goddamn elves.
No, that's exactly right. These are...
Yes, it's not Nabisco. Stop it. Look, we know you make your cookies in a tree, but if it gets chopped down, that's the market.
Often multinational corporations that have no allegiance to the United States at all in many cases, that have massive amounts of their...
Well, then what do you give a fuck what they do then? So what?
Ownership is overseas. They don't have any allegiance to the Constitution. They have special legal and tax advantages that the rest of us don't have.
By the way, I swear to God, have I died and gone to democracy now?
We receive bailouts and government funding that regular people don't get. We're candid.
What kind of... Wait a minute, I thought I was watching Glenn Beck. What kind of hippie bullshit is this? What? Corporations are getting bailouts they shouldn't get? Tell me more.
And with government, many of them have lucrative government contracts. They get trillions and trillions of dollars have been pumped.
Yeah. Have you ever had the cookies at the Pentagon? Mwah.
The financial system,
they give them the good
Federal
ones.
Reserve over the past 10 years. It's the only reason this system is able to exist, because they're all going to get rich no matter what they do with ESG scores. So the idea that this is some...
Beg your pardon, I'm allergic to bullshit.
...of a free market system is the most ludicrous thing imaginable. There's nothing free market about this at all.
Listen.
Well, yes, it is. It's precisely free market. You can see the ESG score and invest in it if you want to, or you can go, these ESG score people do this and it's not going to be profitable. They're so worried about environmental issues and social justice and governmental fairness and other stuff like that, and democracy, yada, yada, that they're not going to make a profit. So I'm not going to invest in people with a high ESG score. I'm looking for these cutthroat motherfuckers that have a low ESG score. That's who I'm going to throw my money. It doesn't make you give your money to either one, dummy. It's just a way to inform yourself, pro or con, against or for putting your money in an investment. Seriously.
This came in from Alex Wong. He's a reporter, and he's been watching this. He said, in his Build Back Better legislation, President Joe Biden wanted to spend $570 billion over the next decade on green causes, mostly focused on climate change. Fortunately, that bill seems to be dead. And yet now the Biden Greens, that's to say the Green administration, have their eye on a bigger pot of money with which to pursue their climate agenda, the assets of American banks. These assets total nearly $23 trillion, according to the Federal Reserve. A crucial vote on whether or not this sneaky policy will proceed will be held, I think, today when the Senate Banking Committee votes on whether to advance Biden's Federal Reserve nominees, particularly the nomination of Sarah Bloom Raskin. The Federal Reserve System, the Fed, as it's called, is the principal body.
Wait a minute. Is this the Ben Shapiro show? We're being read to again.
Oversees and regulates banking in the U.S. After the failure of Build Back Better, the Fed is Biden's preferred mechanism for advancing his version of the Green New Deal. After all, the Fed has vast power over the banks, including whether or not they can lend money to or otherwise finance fossil fuel companies.
Yeah, but that's not... They don't have control over that. They can't make a case against if the merits are that they can pay back the money. Fossil fuel companies can get the loans. Plus, fossil fuel companies famously don't need loans from the government. Not like that, anyways.
Biden point of view, this seems like a clever strategy. It has been said of the banks, that's where the money is. Biden wants to gain control of the...
It's been said of the banks, that's where the money is. Adorable.
Federal Reserve's 7-member board of governors. Of these 7 slots, 3 are currently vacant. On January 14th, the White House named 3 candidates to fill those slots, all of whom are friendly to the Green Scheme and to the Great Reset. If the trio is confirmed by the Senate, they will join a...
Also, what the fuck is he, where is he reading this from? Glenn, put this on the screen so I can find it and read and check the source, because as my mother always says, consider the source.
Democrat already on the board, and the left will have gained control of the Fed.
By the way, the Fed board is now their new SCOTUS, because now they've claimed the SCOTUS. They think, well, if we could just get, now it's about politicizing the Fed.
To that.
I think that this is absolutely the path forward for them. And we don't have to guess. We don't need speculation. They've been very open that this is what's going on. When they had that...
Yeah, that's the worst kind of conspiracy. The ones that are out in the open, where they tell you what they're going to do and they let you respond.
Meeting in Glasgow recently for COP26, they announced, and this was backed by Joe Biden, it's got lots of support from the Biden administration. John Kerry was openly in favor of it, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero. You just mentioned 20-something trillion dollars in the United States tied up in banks. Well, the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero has more than 450 banks, insurers, and asset managers in dozens of countries around the world, with total assets pledged toward enacting this whole Great Reset ESG scheme of $130 trillion.
Okay, so and clearly the people who are in charge of $130 trillion of assets can't wait to lose money. That the people who've gotten in the position where they run things are so socialist and such big fucking long-haired hippies that those folks who run all 400 of those asset banks can't wait to throw good money after bad to reset shit because windmills.
Yeah, that this is just something that the little guy can, well, if your local bank's discriminating against you, just go to a different bank. Oh, if a local corporation is discriminating, you just just buy from a different corporation. They're all going to be in on it. They're not going to have any choice. And the people who resist are going to be...
Also, again, this is an investment point. That federal governments and stuff have the ability to invest in this or this. They don't just invest blanketly. Life isn't fair, Glenn. Life isn't fair, Justin. Sorry to burst your bubble, but the federal government chooses where its money's going to go and where it's going to allocate the money it loans out for the return on the investment to the citizens. Now, that can't just be in form of cash, because you can't eat it. And if you destroy the planet in the process, or you kill off all the fish, you dirty up the rivers and streams, you choke the fucking sky with smoke, ask the Chinese. They are doing what Glenn and Justin are arguing for, which is whatever's instantly most profitable with no look to the future. The government has no business trying to invest in what's better for the people over time. It's about the rate right now. What's the return on investment? What's the growth number for this year? And so to meet that growth number, the provinces in China and the CCP are basically bullshit their numbers. They just make them up. But they also invest in things no matter how dirty they are, no matter what damage they're going to do, unless it's like perfunctory to show the world that they're being green, which is largely, sadly, nonsense. But they're going to pour this money into that. Whereas these other governments, the big Western powers essentially, are coming together and going, look, if we're going to put our money someplace, it's not going to be in coal. And it's going to be towards stuff that has a future. Because we don't want to kill our citizens. Because the profit of a government, and governments do turn a profit. I'm sorry to upset Glenn and Justin and all these right-wing dickheads who think that governments don't turn a profit. They do. You know what they turn a profit in? The profit is shown in the health, well-being, longevity, and success of the citizens of that country. That's the profit. The profit of the education system in the United States is not cash back. It's an educated populace that goes into the best universities in the world. That's the point. It's not a cash return. That's short-sighted. It's fucking dumb. So these countries are going, we have been dumping this money down the cheapest, quickest growth path that we've had for a long time. And we've basically hit a plateau. We've gotten all we can get out of oil. The return on investment on oil is fucked up. So is coal. It gives with one hand and takes with two. So we need to put our money in places where it will give with two hands if it takes with one. And we'll get to net zero over time through that strategy. Net zero doesn't mean zero emissions. Net zero doesn't mean zero carbon in the atmosphere. It means that we're either taking out as much as we're putting in so that it zeroes it out. It's net zero. It's not gross zero. Gross zero is Glenn Beck nude.
They're already being pushed out by massive asset managers on Wall Street, like BlackRock and State Street Global Advisors and others.
Yeah, those big socialists.
So you will have to go along with this.
I'm going to come back with Justin Haskins because I'm going to tie this into what the Treasury.
Well, of course you are, Glenn. You need to sell your book, and no one is buying it.
Or the finance minister of Canada announced yesterday with their emergency powers. This is what.
Not Canada. You mean that country with basically what, 40 million people in it that has national health care and that is still technically under the monarchy, although they have their own parliamentary system that does not have all the rights and freedoms that the United States does, but, tries to offset it with other stuff. You mean that country?
Greek race,
that has and by the way, the Greek reset, that's different. That's up the keister. Also, they're not a reserve currency. Just saying. What they do with their money is wholly different than how the United States operates, because we are the world's reserve currency. Canada is not even a reserve currency.
Announced yesterday with their emergency powers. This is what the Great Reset does.
The Greek racist.
Just done it with emergency powers, and we'll talk about that in 60 seconds. I want to play Canada's Minister of Finance yesterday during the Trudeau press conference on emergency.
Well, you do whatever sex games you want on your own time, Glenn. If you're the Minister of Finance, what does Justin dress up like? Just make sure you unzip his mouth so he can breathe.
Listen carefully to what she says here.
First, we are broadening the scope of Canada's anti-money laundering and terrorist financing rules so that they cover crowdfunding platforms and the payment service providers they use. These changes cover all forms of transactions, including digital assets, such as cryptocurrencies. The illegal blockades have highlighted the fact that...
Sorry, can you buy and sell anything with cryptocurrency that aren't guns, drugs, or human beings? I mean, for real. People are using it as an asset storage, as a hedge against inflation, which is moronic. But, I mean, you can't go to the store and use crypto. But if you want to buy some fentanyl and some slaves in South America or in Asia or in, I don't know how Canada's market is these days. Vancouver, Bitcoin would be how you did it.
Crowdfunding platforms and some of the payment service providers they use are not fully captured under the Proceeds of Crime and Terrorist Financing Act.
Right. Yes. Apparently they didn't scan those things the way they do cash. So now they're looking at stuff and by the way, the fuck difference is, why would Glenn get upset at that? If ISIS wants to buy and sell stuff or support things and somebody sneaks into Canada to carry out some sort of terrorist thing. And the way they pay them is under the table through a fake Kickstarter or a bullshit GoFundMe or through fucking Ethereum or, or Bitcoin. What would be so upsetting to Glenn Beck? Well, I'll tell you why. Because that's how rich dudes are starting to launder their money across, international lines.
Okay, stop. Everybody is focusing on, you're saying that these guys are terrorists? The truckers are terrorists?
No, she's not. She's saying they're changing the law so that, because there was people shipping guns up, Glenn. People, I don't know if let's see, where do we go? Well, you guys saw it. I showed the shipping.
Goes farther than that. You are funding a terrorist organization. So by default, you also are involved in terrorism. But even beyond that, this is aimed at, give, send, go, because the other crowdfunding source decided this is too dangerous. They're not going to.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of anti-Semites and white supremacists mixed in with that crowd, and it turns out to be bullshit. And also, like I said, they're blocking ambulance traffic because they don't want to get vaccinated, and they represent less than 10% of their own profession, much less the rest of the country.
Do it because they just don't like these truckers. They're terrorists, So they.
No, they have the potential for being terrorists. And if somebody's, if somebody's just giving them money for gas to block a road, you can make an argument in court that that's not the case. But if you're one of the assholes who bought them guns and had them shipped up there, that would be the point of concern. That would be where this terrorist law would cover you, and they would be able to look at this stuff as evidence because it's money changing hands and moving across, international lines.
Pulled out and tried to hold the money. So Give, Send, Go came up, and they said, we'll do it. This is not just aimed at them. Give, Send, Go requires some sort of mechanism, another party to take your credit card and process from your bank into Give, Send, Go. They're attacking anyone like they will with the Blaze when they come, and they will come.
Yes, they're coming for the Blaze. Glenn, you've been sniffing too much Putin, Poot. Nobody gives a fuck, bro. Nobody cares. Nobody thinks you're a threat. Nobody's going to try and shut you down. You're a wuss with your language. You know where the line is. You stay well on this side of it, cowboy. Nobody has to worry, that they're going to raid the fucking Blaze compound.
Shut down the Blaze. They will say, you know what? The Blaze can do whatever they want. Of course, if you are somebody who is a payment processor, I wouldn't be involved in that. And that cuts off all of our funding. That cuts off our banking, our ability to reach out to you and ask you for your credit card number so you can be a monthly subscriber. That's what's.
This is what this is. It's a fundraiser. That's what we've been watching this whole time. I can't believe we got suckered into this. This whole thing is a fundraiser. It's just his way of dovetailing the conversation and getting people to buy his book and give money to the Blaze and subscribe. I mean, I guess I should be impressed because I'm terrible. I have a Venmo thing over my shoulder and I never reference it the way I should. I'm terrible at trying to get people to subscribe. But what we're watching, this is basically a telethon. This whole thing is bullshit. Like, he's pretending to give a rat fuck about Canadians and about them looking at funding sites and putting them under the terrorism rules that cash and Visa would cover. Ugh. Yep, got snookered. Yep, we got the glaze. Ew. Splurt.
Coming, gang. And they're doing it right now just under the auspices of the truckers and this emergency dangerous terrorist activity. Do I have this right or wrong?
Wrong. You're an idiot. This is fucking ridiculous. You don't have the right to say half the shit you're saying in Canada anyways. That's why your company is in the United States, dum-dum.
Justin?
No, you're 100% right. This is actually not.
Wait a minute. He must be telling the truth because his co-author of The Great Reset says that he's 100% right. I mean, what more evidence do you need?
Really about truckers. This is not even really about just what's going on in Canada.
No. Yeah, it is. It's only about what's going on in Canada. For fuck's sake.
This is about resistance at any level, anywhere in the world. You're not.
Yeah, anybody. Hong Kong fighting for democracy. This is so Joe Biden can turn off their funds. Anybody, if you want to be at a First Lutheran church and there's a second Lutheran across the street and you decide to flip a coin to see who can be First Lutheran, you could swap names or something, Joe Biden's going to make sure that you can't kickstart your church fundraiser.
Allowed to resist.
Unless you plant 100 trees.
All the off-ramps. That's what this is fundamentally about.
I would get your money out of those big banks, quite honestly, and I would put it in a local
in a what?
Credit union or a very, very
the Minneapolis Savings and Loan, for example. Hold on. Whoops. Hold on. You mean a local bank? A local bank that doesn't have like big asset management stuff and the damage to their name can really have an effect on their bottom line, so they might tell you to go fuck yourself? Like that? You think? No? All right.
Very locally owned bank, something that keeps all of their money.
Yeah. Bob's Bank. Yeah, what do you got? You got 1,500? I'll put it here. Put it in the white suit, right front hand pocket. Bob's Bank.
Doesn't have ties to anybody else. But
no. Yeah, that's what you want. You want a bank that has no ties to anyone. It's so local that it could disappear overnight and no one would even notice that the building was gone.
It's time to protect yourself. The hordes are at the gate.
Yes, the hordes are at the gate. Because Canada is changing their monitoring laws about gun runners using GoFundMe sites. Jesus Christ. And by the way, the hordes are at the gate. The hordes are at the gate. This is look at this. Bigger than Watergate, Canada squashes trucker finances. This is the end of it. The hordes are at the gate, guys. I know you think that somewhere down the line this might be. No, now. Because Canada issued financing cross-border rules about money flowing into the country because they recognize that foreign entities are dumping money into this trucker convoy to foment it and make it worse, because it's how they use it as a divisive point between Canada and the United States, and of course between citizens of both those countries. And so they passed a rule about that. We already have that rule, by the way. You know that, right? We don't need to change our rules to cover that. We know that. We've been doing that for a long time. It's illegal to use Bitcoin for terrorism in the United States. Has been since the second it showed up. But the hordes are at the gate. They're at the gate. Your whole life is in danger. Do you not realize how much danger you are in? We'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, try reverse mortgage, because nothing says the world is coming to an end like cashing out your house over 35 years. Fucking hell.